Hello and welcome to this episode of English with Matthew, where today we're going to talk about citations Harvard style. Now, let's stop right here. Harvard style, it means a lot of different things in different places. Check with your own institution, the journal you're writing for, the class you're in, get their style sheet. This presentation will get you started, and it certainly shows you how to do it in my institution, but every full stop, every comma, every semicolon, they all matter. And you need to check and make sure you're getting them in the right place for your particular assignment. Okay, if you're citing a passage in a book, you need to give the page number. That's what this page is saying here. It says Smith 2017, page 42. That means I've either directly quoted it, I'm referring to an idea on that page. Citations are supposed to get the reader back to the source, so include the page number if you can. Some of these examples are from the University of Sheffield website. It's a great place to go look and see more examples, so you can Google that. If you're citing a section of a book, you need to identify that section. You don't need to write out the whole title of the section, just a few words to get us there. So here, for example, the value of numbers needs to be random, says GoBots in 2015, from a section entitled Random Numbers and Generating blah, 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 blah. But we just picked the first 4 words to indicate the section. Maybe there was no page number, so I've thrown in paragraph 2 to really do everything we can to get the reader back to the source. If you're citing a book, well, you'd say Smith 2017 in brackets. If you've already mentioned Smith in your sentence, you don't need to then repeat Smith's name. You just say, according to Smith, bracket 2017. Maybe Smith had a big year in 2017 and wrote more than one book. You call one 2017A, you call the other 2017B, and you list them in that order in your bibliography so that we know where they are and that they've been used in both the citation and the bibliography. Maybe you have several books by different authors backing up one point. You know, Jones and Smith and Williams and everybody made this point. Well, you list them in your citation and you separate them with a semicolon. Also, you list them chronologically. So Jones 2014, semicolon, Smith 2017. Sorry, did I say Jones 2014, Smith 2017. Okay, so separated by a semicolon and listed chronologically. Maybe one book has many authors. Okay, well, if they have up to 3, go ahead and list all 3. If it goes beyond 3, then we're going to start to use the et al thing, which is Latin for et alia, meaning and the others. Okay, so here we have Taylor et al in 2015. That means there were at least 3 other people writing that book. Also, can you notice the al in et al has a full stop after it? That's because that is an abbreviation. Okay, et is not. It is simply the Latin word for and. So please pay attention to the full stops and stick one in after al. Organizational reports. Okay, in social sciences and education, in my field, we get a lot of reports written by organizations, and sometimes they don't have authors on them. You cite the organization as the author. So Birdwatching in the Woods, Woodland Trust 2016. Okay. And a lot of those reports, not a lot, but some don't have dates. I'm amazed at the number of reports that come out with no date. Very strange. So we do our best, basically, is the rule of thumb here. So look at this first example. When discussing matters of something or other, says Hill in 2005, question mark? You know, maybe I read a news article that's saying that's when the report came out. Okay, I'll have a guess and say 2005, or I could say circa 2005, CA full stop. Or it was found that Hill, and I don't know, but I know it was the 21st century. That's pretty rare, but you know, at least we can say it's not an ancient text. If there's no date or no approximate date, you really have no idea. You just say Wells, no date. Okay, so we're just being honest with the reader. If you're using a copyright date, it's usually good practice to stick the copyright symbol or COP full stop in front of that date. Okay, if you're quoting and you're quoting something that works out to be less than 2 lines in your essay, And this is a short quote I've given you here, but because it's a PowerPoint, it's squeezed together. It looks like it's 4 lines. But in an essay, this would be a short quote. Then you include that in your own text. Okay, so it's noted that flavors such as vanillin, which occur naturally, blah, 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 Wilson, 2009, page 257. My point here is if you include a long quote that goes over that length, then we indent the quote. And you can see, look at the left side there. This is being squished over. Some people squish it in from the right side as well. But by setting it off and squishing it in that way, or indenting, we're saying to the reader, this is a quotation. What that means is you don't then put quotation marks on it, because that would just be doubling up the message, and you don't have to do that. So here, Wilson 2009, page 257, has looked at food flavorings. Boom, there's the indented quote. That's a long one. Okay, so we don't put indented quotes in quotation marks, and generally we don't put quotations in italics. Some institutions like them in italics. Double check that, but as a kind of basic rule, don't. Okay, if for some reason you need to omit part of a quotation just to make it easier to read, replace the part you take out with ... That's an ellipsis. So here we have a quote from Cantor and Cantor that says their own past experiences, I'm talking about students, and ... their preconceptions, ... So you get the idea. Something was in there. I took it out to make it easier to read. If you take something out at the beginning of a sentence or an end of a sentence, you don't have to put in the ... then. It's just when you're taking something out in the middle. And ethically speaking, obviously, you don't want to take something out that then's going to misrepresent what the author said. You want to be trustworthy on that point. Paraphrasing. Okay, this is dangerous territory. Some people think that if I just juggle a few words in this quote around, then I don't have to put it in quotation marks because I'm paraphrasing them. No, it's more than that. You have to put it entirely into your own words. When you paraphrase a text, you should restate the meaning entirely in your own words, and you must cite the author. I don't know why some people think, I've paraphrased the idea, I'm not quoting them directly, so I don't need to cite it. Yes, you do. It wasn't your idea. That would be plagiarism. So here's an example. This comes from Booth et al., using Gladwell as their example. And look at this first quote. Achievement is talent plus preparation. Well, the problem with this view is that the closer psychologists look at the careers of the gifted, the smaller the role innate talent seems to play, and the bigger the role preparation seems to play. What's below is an unacceptable paraphrase, because I'm going to show you on the next page that there are too many words still being borrowed. Look at this. Talent, preparation, psychologist, closer, closely, gifted, careers, innate talent, plays, preparation. It's all there. That's over the top. That if you didn't put that in quotation marks, then it would become obvious to your reader that you're stealing somebody else's language, and that's not honest. Okay? You might be summarizing an argument that is in an entire book. In that case, okay, you don't need a page number. You can just cite the book. But I have to say, I don't see that happening very often. Generally, make an effort to put a page number in, please. Okay, journal articles. Very simple for citations. Here it says, Austin, 2009, argues that. And then we go to the bibliography, and I've given you the bibliographic entry at the bottom here where it says Austin, 2012. See, now we've created a problem. We're sitting here thinking, did they just get the date wrong? Or is this a completely different work by Austin? Should I be looking for something that Austin did in 2009? My point here is make sure every citation matches the entry in the bibliography exactly. I know some lecturers and professors that actually go through and check them one by one. Don't get caught out on that. Check it yourself and make sure they match up exactly. Okay? If the journal is an electronic journal article, it's the same thing. So here, Dobson, 2006, same way of citing. But the bibliography looks a little bit different, and I do have another video on bibliographies. You can go see that. But look at this, H. Dobson, 2006. There's the title, there's the journal title, and then I put in brackets online to say I've read it online, and I give the date as to when I read it. It was viewed on the 5th of October 2015, because things on the web can change. Articles can be retracted. You're just letting the reader know that was the version I looked at. And if you want to be really specific, you can use a digital object identifier, which is this long set of code numbers there. That, when plugged into a browser, will take you immediately back to that article. So a DOI is quite helpful. If you don't have a DOI, you can just include the URL or the web address. Okay, sources within another source. I think you know what this is. It's when you've read somebody being quoted in another book, and you'd really like to cite the original author, but you don't have the original author, you just got the book that quoted it. Okay, you can do this sometimes, but please don't make a habit of it. Please make the effort to go off and find the original, because you're creating a chain of references, and mistakes creep in. They might have gotten the reference wrong. So you need to go back to the original to double check it. But if you're going to do this, right, so I have here Fong cited in Bertram 1997. So you just say cited in, and that's how you indicate that you got the original through this other source. And then only Bertram is going to go into your references, because you didn't get Fong. You never looked at Fong's work. Okay, so Bertram 1997 is what appears in the references. I borrowed this example from Southern Cross website. Again, a good site to go have a look at. And just remember, don't put Fong in your reference list, but you do include Bertram. Okay, you include the book that you actually have. You don't include the one that you don't have. So remember, the goal of citations is to lead the reader directly and clearly back to the original source, just like breadcrumbs in a forest. And a few final do's and don'ts to keep in mind. So please do be utterly consistent. So even if you're making a mistake, it's better to make it consistently than to make it look as if I'm just doing this randomly. I don't have a system. Okay. Watch punctuation very carefully. Brackets, full stops, semicolons, commas, they all matter. Make sure every citation in your essay links to a matching entry in the bibliography. And if you're paraphrasing, completely restate the idea. Paraphrasing can be dangerous. Okay, some don'ts. I would say don't paraphrase if you can use a precise quotation. I've had a lot of colleagues argue with me on this, but I'm standing firm. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. Don't cite sources within other sources too often, because it does start to look a bit lazy. Don't put quotations in italics unless your institution specifically requires it. Okay, some people do this just out of habit. It's not required, but check to see if your class, journal, university wants you to. Don't play about with bold or fonts, because those don't mean anything within Harvard. Okay, you don't need them, so just don't use them. And this is a strange one, but don't attribute sweeping generalizations or peculiarly specific arguments to a source in a careless, non-specific way. And here is an example is, the world of education is in a state of chaos, says Smith in 2020. I doubt Smith made such a sweeping statement. Okay, you're just raising suspicions in the reader's mind that you're not quoting carefully here. Or, my pupils have no hope of mastering this part of the curriculum, says Williams in 2019. I don't think Williams knows your pupils, and I really doubt that he or she was speaking about your class. So just make sure that you're quoting or paraphrasing precisely. Because if you're sloppy with citations, it just tells your lecturer or your professor, I don't care enough to get this right. Because it is kind of mechanical. As long as you follow the rules, you'll get it right. So thank you for joining me on English with Matthew today and joining in the fight against careless citations. As I say, there is another video on bibliographies. You can have a look at that. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch. Thanks very much.